But over time, that ticket has become too expensive for too many Americans. All this means is an entire generation is now saddled with unsustainable debt.
You probably heard the big news today. The president announcing relief is on the way for millions of Americans with federal student loans. He unveiled a plan to cancel $10,000 of student loans for most people and double that for anyone who received a Pell Grant. The move also extends the pause on student loan payments until January.
So, who qualifies for that forgiveness? If you're single and making less than $125,000 a year, or if you're married and making less than $250,000, you're eligible for up to $10,000 in federal debt forgiveness. And if you owe less than $10,000, you won't get extra cash. Pell Grant recipients can get up to $20,000 forgiven. Those federal grants are given to students with exceptional financial need. Current students are eligible for debt forgiveness, but only if their loans started before July 1st of this year. Parents who took out a Parent Plus loan, you're eligible for forgiveness too. Private loans are not included in this plan.
The move would also cap payments for federal student loans at 5% of the borrower's monthly income.
And of course, there are still plenty of questions after the president's announcement today. TaTiana Cash joins us live in studio with some of those answers. TaTiana?
That's right, Jeff, Melissa. Now, while the promise of forgiving student loans was a hot topic during the presidential campaign 2 years back, the reality is it's only been a few hours since we've learned some of the specifics on how this is going to happen. So I did take some of the unknowns to local experts so they could help us verify what we know and what we don't at this point.
Turn to two local experts, the University of Toledo's Associate Professor of Finance, Collin Gilstrap, and Assistant Professor of Political Science, Joshua Boston, at Bowling Green State University. First, the burning question: when will borrowers see relief?
It will involve a lot of rulemaking. We'll have to coordinate with those loan servicers to see who qualifies for loan forgiveness and other things.
So there's no exact date on when we'll see forgiveness. Now, if you've been on social media, you've probably seen questions about inflation. Will debt forgiveness help or hurt the economy?
It could help inflation come down, where folks may be willing to take a little bit of a lower paying job because they don't have that obligation to the federal government anymore. If they save it, actually, that's great. That shouldn't create inflation. But if they go out and decide to just spend it today, that's when we start to get, more demand for goods and services, which continue to push up inflation.
But Boston says the pause on payments has some people spending money they'd be paying back on things they need.
I haven't been taking my loan payments and putting them into an account, like waiting to pay them back. I've been using that money in other ways for the last 2 years, right? It's not like now it's like, oh, my loans are paused for another 3-4 months and maybe part of my loans get canceled. That doesn't change the way that I'm spending my money right now.
In short, it's too early to tell how this might or might not affect inflation. Another big back and forth: is this all just a push to get voters to the polls?
Timing of this was purposeful by the Biden administration, by President Biden and everyone in the White House. Even the chief of staff, Ron Klain, has been quoted that this is supposed to galvanize young voters.
If Republicans take over, they may not advance the funding for it next year because this is something has to be approved by Congress every year.
Both experts agree. Democrats stand to gain from this announcement going into midterm elections.
And while there are still more questions about this announcement, we anticipate we're going to have more answers about this in the coming days. Live in studio, TaTiana Cash, WTOL 11.